Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to simply describe the fasteners for the Bomber LB1002 and the LB1002H model. The standard self-closing spring hinge, and then the hold-open version of that. First of all, those two hinges are identical hinges, and I happen to have one here on my desk shown in the 601 bright black Japan finish. The only difference between the H and the standard is that the standard spring hinge is going to close the door. The H version is going to be set such that it will keep the door in an opened position. So every single time you go out, you close the door and you latch it. As soon as you unlatch it, it will want to open the door back up. That's the only difference. Now, the fasteners are identical on both of these units. The question becomes is what door thicknesses and what style thicknesses do they work with? Well, the answer is that these are very likely intended in partition sort of work, toilet partition work, but not exclusively so. However, they're really made coming up with bolts for that sort of purpose. Those bolts look like this. You're going to get two cap screws. Well, you're going to get, for every hinge, you're going to get 8 cap screws. They all look like this. Vandal resistant, one-way, slotted sort of screws. And those are tapped with a 1024 thread. Let's get some very specific dimensions on it, and then I will give you the rest of the view of how these work. The diameter of the body is 1/4 inch. So if I was drilling that hole, I'd probably make it just a 32nd heavy on 1/4 inch. The diameter of the head of the bolt, and I'm using my caliper so that we can be very specific, very precise, is 0.442. So basically 7/16 diameter head. The dimension underneath the head, underside of the head to the back of the screw, that's going to be 7/16 long. Then the thickness of that head is pretty inconsequential. I'd say somewhere about 1/8 or 3/16 of an inch. Okay. Now it's threaded 1024. These cap screws are going to work with your hinge like this. That's what it's going to look like. So you need 4 of them for just the one side of the hinge. Then you're going to have a plate, a backing plate, that is supposed to go like this through the door or the jamb. And on the other side, you're going to have another cap screw so that these through bolt back to each other. Okay? That's what that looks like. Then what connects them together is simply a piece of 1024 threaded rod. Okay, there are a total of 4 pieces of threaded rod that you're going to get per hinge. You're going to get 2 longer ones and 2 shorter ones. Now here's the bottom line. We know that the underside of that head is 7/16. Okay. The thickness of the plate and the thickness of the hinge are roughly 1/8 of an inch, roughly. So you've got 7/16 plus 7/16 less a 1/4 inch. And I'm just being very rough here. You got about 5/8 of an inch, 7/16 less 1/8 of an inch. So what I'm trying to get to is the thickness of door this will work with. You're going to install this. You're going to have roughly 5/16 sticking out, and then for the other side, that's 5/8. Then the length of these 2 pieces of threaded rod, 2 shorts, 2 longs. The short one is 5/8. The long one is 1 1/8 inches. So you can see if you use the long bolt, that's 1 1/8 inches. and then you know you've got 5/8 left over. So on paper, this would be 1 3/4 when it's all put together. But you have to rotate those cap screws together, and let's just assume that you're going to lose 1/4 inch in doing that. That means that your maximum value will be 1 3/8 for one side, let's say for the door thickness. 1 3/8 using this longer bolt. Now the shorter one, that's 5/8, so it's going to be 1/2 inch smaller. That means then the 1 3/8, so that means your actual maximum thickness is 7/8 on the other side. The point being that with those two pieces of threaded rod, you can do one side up to about 7/8 and the other side up to 1 3/8. Now you can obviously cut the longer one down if you had a set of electrician's pliers that you could thread this in and cut your rod down. Now Bomber is not going to recommend, they will not come out and say, sure, you can use it on a thicker door. If you had a longer piece of threaded rod, you sure could get it installed onto a thicker door. But the truth of the matter is this is a full surface hinge, and you're going to have to take that into account as well. So if you're thinking about using this on a standard sort of door, keep in mind that there's no swag on those. I mean, there's a swag, but in essence, there's no swag on these when you fully surface mount these. They're not intended to compensate for any sort of offset in the hinge when it's installed. Okay. There's a link to the template on the same page that you have found this video showing what the hinge looks like in a cross section. So it's not going to behave very well if you've got one door that's inset. So keep that in mind. The next question is that I just am thinking about is how small will this come up to if I take the longer rod and thread it all the way down, the two cap screws. So I've got the longer rod installed in there, and I'm going to get this dimension, and I'm going to deduct that 1/4 inch for the hinge leaf thickness. It's not quite 1/4 inch, but it's pretty close. You can get that down, the longer ones down to about 1 inch is the bottom line. And I suppose if you had to put a washer or something, you could also do that. So there's really nothing keeping you from coming up with different threaded rods or trying to accommodate a different door thickness. But this video is really just to call out, here's what you're going to get. 2 shorties at 5/8, 2 long ones at 1 1/8. You know you've got those cap screws, you know you've got the backer plate, and then the thickness of the hinge leaf, which is actually 96 thousandths. So you're probably going to be 3/16 that you'll end up losing there. And if anyone can accommodate a custom situation, it's certainly Bomber. They are a company that takes pride in that language right above their logo. It says Made in USA. That's a fact that Bomber is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the fastener package for the LB1002 full surface spring hinges or any other Bomber product, please feel free to reach out to us.